On September 21, 2005, it was a sunny and clear afternoon. 140 passengers and 6 crew members on board the JetBlue Flight 292, an Airbus A320, departed Bob Hope Airport in Burbank for its flight across the U.S. to John F. Kennedy International Airport in New York. But after just 15 minutes, what started as a normal flight soon turned into every flyer's worst nightmare. Flight 292 had developed a mechanical fault. The pilots had no idea what was going on, and the passengers were unsure whether they would make it out alive or not. What really happened with JetBlue Flight 292 with 140 passengers? By 3 p.m. local time, all 140 passengers on board the JetBlue 292 were comfortably seated, waiting for their plane to take off. The pilot had carefully inspected the body of the plane and finished the pre-flight preparation checklist. Everything was perfect, and the weather in Burbank was beautiful. The pilot contacted the control tower and was given clearance to fly. By 3:17 p.m., JetBlue Flight 292, scheduled to cover 2,500 miles to reach its destination in New York, bade farewell to the Bob Hope Airport in Burbank. The plane achieved a positive rate of climb, and there was good visibility and light wind. Everything was going according to plan, or so it seemed. But after just 15 minutes in the air, the pilot, Captain Scott Burke, received an electronic centralized aircraft monitor, or ECAM, message warning him of a possible situation. The first message he received was landing gear shock absorber fault. Moments later, he received another error message of a nose wheel steering fault. As an experienced pilot, Captain Burke immediately knew that something was wrong with the plane, but he had no idea how serious the situation was. He consulted the flight crew operating manual, hoping to find a solution to the problem. The nose landing gear had become stuck and could not be retracted. While this was going on, the passengers also observed that the plane was not gaining much altitude. Just when they began to suspect that they may be in a terrible situation, the captain made an unsettling announcement. He informed the passengers that Flight 292 had developed a mechanical fault, but assured them that he was doing everything he could to bring them to safety. The cabin became tense, with some of the passengers mumbling prayers under their breath, hoping to get a chance to see and hold their loved ones one last time. Some others cried, thinking that this could be the end. One person even recorded the entire situation on his camera and also recorded a video message for his family. Meanwhile, it became obvious that the flight could not go all the way to New York. So, without wasting much time, the captain diverted the flight to Long Beach Municipal Airport, California. The captain decided to perform a flyby of the tower to get a visual assessment of what could be wrong with Flight 292 before attempting a landing. A local news helicopter advised that the nose landing gear was tilted 90 degrees to the left. Moments later, the air traffic control also confirmed that the nose landing gear was tilted 90 degrees to the left, perpendicular to the direction of the fuselage. Rather than turning back to Burbank or landing at Long Beach Airport, the captain decided to land at Los Angeles International Airport. The captain chose the Los Angeles International Airport because it has optimum field conditions, a lengthy runway, and better emergency support services. However, after discussing the situation with the control tower, the captain was told to pull back up and dump its excess fuel reserve before attempting an emergency landing. This was to ensure that the plane would land at a lighter weight, thus reducing the risk of potential damage to the landing gear and even the risk of a fire outbreak. Unfortunately, the Airbus A320 does not have fuel dumping capabilities. So, for the next few hours, Flight 292 circled the Los Angeles area to burn off excess fuel before the captain could perform the emergency landing. However, while this was going on, multiple news stations quickly picked up on the incident and started showing it live. Then, just when it seemed as if things couldn't get any worse, the 140 passengers on Flight 292 were able to watch their own life and death drama unfolding on live television because JetBlue planes are equipped with DirecTV satellite televisions. Meanwhile, the flight crew continually updated the cabin crew and passengers. But despite the efforts of the captain to assure the passengers of safety, seeing the live news coverage of Flight 292's imminent disaster did not help matters. As passengers listened to reporters discuss the whole event live, many of them started panicking and crying. The whole event felt surreal, and every minute spent in the air felt like eternity. Yet the thought of the plane landing invoked fear in some passengers because of the malfunctioning front landing gear. But regardless, the ever-calm demeanor of the flight captain gave many of the passengers a ray of hope. By 6 p.m., it's now almost 3 hours since Flight 292 took off from Bob Hope Airport in Burbank. As the clock ticked, the passengers grew more anxious and wondered if they would get to live another day. Those who were religious offered prayers to God after seeing their lives flash before their eyes. Seeing that the live news coverage was doing more harm than good, the captain decided to turn off the in-flight entertainment system moments before landing. In the meantime, the crew informed the passengers of what they needed to do to ensure their safety, while the captain consulted JetBlue headquarters and formed a plan ahead of the landing. After circling the Los Angeles area for 3 hours, Flight 292 was finally cleared to land at the Los Angeles International Airport. This was a very intense emotional moment. Emergency services and fire engines were standing by on the Los Angeles International Airport ramp ahead of the landing. Hundreds of people were parked just outside the airport, while millions more were curiously watching these events unfold from their homes. As Flight 292 approached Los Angeles' runway 25L, unsure of what would be the outcome, there was a mixture of anxiety and excitement in the cabin. Prior to touchdown, the captain echoed the words, "Brace, brace, brace." That is, the passengers should get into the brace position with their heads between their knees to prepare for impact. At exactly 6:18 p.m., the rear landing gear of Flight 292 touched down, while the captain kept the nose gear off the ground as long as possible. About 15 seconds later, the moment everyone was scared of happened. The nose gear touched the ground, and, as expected, the tires rapidly deflated and tore apart. As the plane skidded down the runway, the wheel broke into two as parts shot along the runway in a fiery display until the aircraft came to a halt at 6:19 p.m. For a few tense seconds, there was dead silence in the cabin as the passengers tried to make sense of what had just happened. What followed was a moment of spontaneous celebration as the passengers realized that they were now safe. The people watching also let out a huge sigh of relief and erupted in applause. Less than 7 minutes later, smiling passengers began to disembark from the aircraft and were greeted by Los Angeles' gorgeous sunset illuminating their faces. All the passengers emerged unhurt and were warmly welcomed by the emergency personnel gathered on the tarmac. Finally, some cried again, but this time around they were tears of joy, knowing fully well that the incident could have been their end. Following the hard landing, the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, investigated the incident. According to NTSB, examination of the nose wheel assembly with a borescope revealed fractured and separated anti-rotation lugs. The examination of the nose landing gear assembly revealed that 2 of the 4 anti-rotation lugs on the upper support assembly have fractured and separated from the upper support assembly. The other 2 lugs contained cracks. The story of JetBlue's miraculous landing is just one of many. In the coming weeks, we'll come up with more stories of what, why, how topics. If you enjoyed this story and want to see more like it, consider subscribing to our channel and hit that notification bell to stay up to date.